culture has had a hard reset in terms of all of this. The only kind of remaining manager is our facility manager.
Okay.
And actually, he also has very strong EQ skills, I think.
Wow. Yeah.
And it's one of these things that when, like, I talk about him or, just think about him as evaluation time, I don't know that in the past I would have given that as much attention.
Yeah.
But these are the skills that, like, grease the working of the park. And his ability to, like, work with others and identify that ability in others has impacted who he hires. And he has hired these people who are fabulous hard workers and people who are, who work well with others.
Yeah.
And meet all of those kind of, like, basic level, like, respect and understanding.
Yeah.
And there are some other employees on the staff. I have a very small staff, like 12 people.
Okay, yeah.
But there are some folks who have sort of, like every place, sort of like personalities across a spectrum. And there's one employee in particular who's not great at reading social cues.
Yeah.
And, one of my gauges for people's EQ skills is how they work with her and how they, like, are they patient? Are they rude? Are they kind? Because she is harder to work with.
Yeah.
And if people are good, like, cause my office is right outside of hers, I can hear the interactions.
Yeah.
And if people are patient and kind to her, cause she's completely competent at her job. There are these social cues that sometimes she's not aware of.
Yeah.
And, so that ability to kind of adapt to her needs is something I keep a close eye on.
Yeah. No, this is so helpful to hear. And it's so interesting you having to take it upon yourself to recognize EQ skills as skills and then like come up with these questions on your own. And I this is like a larger question about all the other parks you worked at. Do you feel your own EQ skills were valued or recognized in any formal way?
No, they definitely were not.
Yeah.
And I don't know that I even, like, I would say as I've learned, like, some of these incidents have heightened my own, like, my EQ skills are growing, right?
Yeah.
I would like to think that, I always had great EQ skills, but I'm not sure that I did. So part of it has been a learning process for me. And, because I'm learning from colleagues, and it's one of those skills that is not, this is a huge thing in the Park Service. We're so hierarchical that your position, your title, sort of imparts the expectation of skills that, like, literally one day you're this job and the next day you're superintendent. Like, you have all the answers and all the skills. Of course that doesn't happen, right? And I think that that idea of higher level employees learning from colleagues who are lower levels is not something that we're very good at all. And I'm sure that we're not unique in that, but EQ skills are one of those areas in particular that, that is like a life skill. That is something that you develop outside of any other formal learning environment. And lots of people who are not high grade employees have really strong EQ skills.
Yeah, that aren't as always as recognized or that's
right. And you might, and like I think that they're probably sometimes recognized in other ways as like, oh, that's your go-to person, or she's so nice, she's always whatever. But it's not a recognition of like, that person is like the glue and the grease of the workplace, right? They keep things going because they're responding to all of these cues that a lot of people are missing sometimes.
Right. That it's so valued, but like it's so important, but often maybe like invisible or
completely. And I think the other part of it is obviously that women are trained to have these skills,
right?
And so there is a gendered bias in this, I think, that like that is that in fact these skills could be seen as weaknesses, and many times have been.
Yep.
And I think that's the other part of it, that, it's the secretary, right, who actually knows everything and can deal with everybody, who is like, oh, yeah, she's my right hand, but it's like, no, literally, she is really running the park, and it is her ability to, like, work with all these different people that really is fundamental. Yeah. And that's the kind of stuff, again, because the dynamic is often, I'm thinking specifically of, like, whoever, and it's not this way everywhere, but, like, whoever the gatekeeper is for the superintendent at a really large park is usually a woman in an administrative role who's many grades lower than the person she's gatekeeping for. Right. And her skills have to be on point. The superintendent can be whatever. Right. Because, you know? So, and I think that I see that all the time in different ways. Like, that's the skill set that is not really. That's the skill set that's not valued. Yeah. No, that's really insightful, and then it tends to be women doing it, but not valued. I will say one of the very notable exceptions, and you reminded me of this, is Mike Reynolds, who was acting. Who was acting director when this started. I was a new superintendent at that time, and I was going through the new superintendent academy and heard him speak several times to our class and had the opportunity to speak to him. And he has off the chart EQ skills, like just tremendous empathy. And it really sets him apart as far as a leader, because he really does identify with people on a personal level in a way that I think is unusual for a leader at his level. I could definitely see that as I've interacted with lots of different people. Something else I wanted to ask you is around how you came to take your leadership role in the women's ERG, and if you could just tell me a little bit about your own experience there. So I didn't actually, when the ERG started, I was like, I don't need to be a part of that. And then I think, I honestly can't remember what switched in my mind, but I joined the ERG, and then there was this call put out for new leadership, and I applied, and I was like, this is actually the leadership role in for women's employees is something that's right up my alley. I went to a women's college, and so a lot of this is very much ingrained in me, and I never really think about it. Well, I do now, but for a long time in my career, I didn't really think about the gender dynamic in the workplace, because I never felt that I had been treated differently as a woman. But this opportunity arose, and I was like, oh, sure, I'd like to join this leadership team. And honestly, there are 5 of us, and I was like, guys, I'm at my desk because I'm a superintendent year round. I would happily do this, because there is one person who is an ecologist who spends her summers in the field. There's a fire planner. She's on fires. And so part of it was by default, that I was the easiest. And part of it was also, I think, that the access to kind of broader information that I have as a superintendent has been extremely helpful. And the resources and support available to superintendents that aren't available to other people was huge. To know who to call, or to feel empowered to call, or to say, no, we can say that, we can do that. It really is different having been a superintendent. That it's a different thing.
Yeah, no, I can see that, especially in an organization that respects hierarchy, to have a higher level leader with it. No, absolutely. And you were mentioning at the start, that this has been a really active ERG. What are some of the things you all are currently working on now?
So, we were able, with Lark's support, to meet in person in Washington, D.C. about 6 months after we formed as a leadership team. And we hashed out our work plan. And it included getting information, uncovering whatever the gender wage gap. The uniform policy for women, and the uniform. So we have the uniform thing is huge. And sprawling, long-standing problem for women. And it has had different iterations and improvements over the years.